Welcome back. In this lesson, we get to the heart of Microsoft 365 administration, identity and access. Almost every ticket you handle as a Tier 2 admin touches it. By the end, you'll understand Entra ID as the identity layer. You'll create users in groups, license them efficiently, and protect accounts with multi-factor authentication, conditional access, and self-service password reset. This is core MS-102 material. Let's start with the big picture. Every time someone signs into Outlook, Teams, or SharePoint, they authenticate against Microsoft Entra ID, which used to be called Azure Active Directory. Entra ID is the identity and access management service for the whole tenant. It holds your users in groups, checks passwords and other factors, and decides what each person can reach. As a Tier 2 admin, most of your access tickets begin right here. You'll work in two main places. The Microsoft 365 Admin Center is for everyday user and license work. The Microsoft Entra Admin Center at entra.microsoft.com is where the deeper identity controls live, like conditional access. Part of getting fast at this job is just knowing which portal a given task belongs in, so you don't waste time hunting. There are two kinds of accounts, and the difference matters at the Helpdesk. A cloud-only identity is created and lives entirely in Entra ID. A synced, or hybrid, identity starts life in an on-premises Active Directory and is copied up to the cloud by a tool called Microsoft Entra Connect. For a synced user, you usually edit the account on-premises and the change flows up. For a cloud-only user, you edit it directly in the cloud. So always check which type you're dealing with first. You can create users by clicking through the Admin Center, or with Microsoft Graph PowerShell, which is the modern toolset. First, you run connect-mg graph with the scopes you need. Then get-mg user reads an account, and new-mg user creates one. Notice we set the account enabled and, in practice, force a password change on first sign-in, so the temporary password can't be reused. Groups come in two flavors, and you must not confuse them. A security group controls access to resources and supports licensing. A Microsoft 365 group adds shared collaboration on top, a mailbox, a calendar, and a Teams and SharePoint space. The rule of thumb is simple. Use security groups when you care about access and licensing. Use Microsoft 365 groups for a team that needs to collaborate together. Here's a habit that separates a pro from a beginner: never assign licenses one user at a time if you can avoid it. Instead, use group-based licensing. You assign the license to a security group, and every member inherits it automatically. When someone joins that group, they get the license, and when they leave, it's removed. Your joiner and leaver process becomes almost hands-free, and you stop forgetting licenses. A password on its own is weak. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, adds a second factor, usually the Microsoft Authenticator app, so a stolen password isn't enough to get in. The modern way to enforce it is conditional access. A policy reads signals, like which user, which device, which location, and how risky the sign-in looks, and then it makes a decision: require MFA, require a compliant device, or block the sign-in outright. One word of caution learned the hard way: always start a new policy in report-only mode so you can see who it would have affected before you turn it on, and always keep a break-glass emergency account excluded so you never lock yourself or your admins out. Finally, the bread and butter of the Helpdesk. Self-service password reset, or SSPR, lets users reset or unlock their own accounts using registered methods like a phone or the Authenticator app. It only works if you've enabled it and the user has registered their methods beforehand, but once that's done, your password reset tickets drop sharply. When SSPR isn't available, password resets and account lockouts are still classic Tier 2 jobs you handle directly in the Admin Center. Let's recap. Entra ID is the identity layer that authenticates and authorizes everything in Microsoft 365. You know the difference between cloud-only and synced identities, and between security and Microsoft 365 groups. You license through groups, and you protect accounts with MFA and conditional access, starting in report-only mode. And self-service password reset cuts your ticket load, though lockouts remain Tier 2 work. Your task: in a test tenant, create one cloud-only user, add them to a security group, assign a license to that group, and build a report-only conditional access policy that requires MFA for the group. See you in the next lesson.